Go.
The right atrium receives the blood which has just travelled around the body. At this point, the blood is deoxygenated as it has just been delivering the blood to all the working muscles, organs, and tissues in the body. It also has a high concentration of carbon dioxide as this is a product of metabolism in the tissue. The blood enters the right atrium through the vein called the vena cava. It then passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. The muscle surrounding the right ventricle then pumps the blood through the pulmonary vein into the pulmonary artery, where the deoxygenated blood then travels down into the lungs where gaseous exchange takes place in the alveoli. This is so that the blood can pick up the oxygen and the capillaries also absorb the carbon dioxide out of the blood. The oxygenated blood then flows back into the heart through the pulmonary vein back into your left atrium. The blood then pours through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. Surrounding the left ventricle is a lot of cardiac muscle. This muscle has a strong enough force to pump the blood then through the aortic valve, which the aortic artery, then the blood then goes into the aorta. From here, the blood is then pumped around the body, traveling through the capillaries to supply oxygen and nutrients to the working muscles. Our blood travels around the body through blood vessels. Each different type of blood vessel has a different function and role in circulating the blood around our bodies. Arteries' main role is to transport oxygen blood away from the heart. However, the pulmonary artery also transports deoxygenated blood away from the heart. They have a smooth muscular layer that functions to regulate the blood flow through the artery. Contractions of the smooth muscles tightens the walls of the vessels in a process called vasoconstriction. Relaxation of the smooth muscles widens the artery in a process called vasodilation. After the blood then goes into the arteries, which has the job of transporting the blood from the arteries into capillaries. They also have a main function of regulating blood pressure and blood flow. They have a much smaller diameter than arteries, meaning there is more resistance and therefore creates more pressure. However, this is important as it means there is a good flow of blood to all the body parts. They also have an increase and decrease the resistance in the vessels through the same process as the arteries. From the arterioles, the blood then gets passed through into very small capillaries. This is where gaseous exchange takes place. Because they have such thin walls, it allows carbon dioxide and other waste products to be collected by the blood. Then gets to the blood and lets the blood deliver oxygen and nutrients to the tissues and cells. From here, the blood heads back towards the heart itself through venules, which then increase in diameter, releasing the pressure. These then branch into a series of veins, which can hold a great volume of our blood, which then lead back to the heart, where the process is then repeated. In the process, this is how oxygen and nutrients is delivered around the body and how the waste products are removed from the cells. I did previously mention the process of vasodilation and vasoconstriction and how this controls the pressure. However, it is also used in the monitoring of the body temperature, also known as thermoregulation. If the body needs to cool itself down, it can use vasodilation to do this by increasing the diameter of the blood vessels. It means that they come closer to the surface of the skin so that the heat can just radiate out of the body, meaning in result start to lose heat and cool down. So if the body needs to warm up, then vasoconstriction takes place in this process. The blood vessels constrict, making the diameter tighter and therefore then decrease the blood flow under the skin, which in effect decreases the amount of heat lost by the body. The blood itself has many functions. One of these is oxygen transport, which I have previously discussed. In our blood, protein, which helps control bleeding. When a wall vessel is damaged, it then constricts to restrict the blood constricts the amount of blood going to that area. Platelets, which are small blood cells, then stick to this area to then stop the bleeding. While the platelets form, they send out chemical signals to attract other cells, which then form to cause what is called a platelet plug. On these platelets, they have many different clotting factors. One of these is the coagulation cascade, which is a series of chemical reactions which in result causes a mesh to stop the bleeding, known as a fibrin clot. We have two different types of blood cells. Our red blood cells' main function is to transport of the oxygens, the nutrients, and the removal of waste products and platelets, which I have just discussed. And we also have white blood cells. What main function is to fight infections, pathogens, and fight infections. Pathogens are what cause diseases, and infections in our body are white blood cells ingest the pathogens, then detonate their cells to then destroy the pathogens. The pathogens also release toxins. What this then also causes, what shaped these toxins, what this then also causes the diseases or infections the white blood cells conquer. This by releasing antitoxins to then neutralize the toxins produced. Last of all, they also produce antibodies. These are large Y-shaped proteins. They also recruit by the immune system to identify and neutralize foreign objects like bacteria and viruses. Whew.